So when it comes to data types, every programming language is having its own data types, and these are the common. So this topic is not at all related to any C programming or Java or Python or anything. But now we people are discussing regarding C programming. So when it comes to C programming, we may having some additional data types. When it comes to Java, you may having some additional data types. When it comes to Python, you may having some additional data types. So why we people need to learn the data types means some specific programming languages, they require which type of data you're going to store. And you're supposed to define the variable. For example, assume it, I'm using the variable called x. I'm using the variable called x, and which is going to store the value 5. So when it comes to value 5, we can say that it is a numeric data. It is a numeric data. When we people are working with any application, any programming language, or else in the manual also, so we can define the data as numeric data and non-numeric data. Non-numeric data means it comes to alphabetics, or else combination of alphanumeric also. For example, if I'm saying that x equal to 5, it is a numeric data. When I set some x equal to, or else house number, some HNO equal to some 49-1A. I'm saying 49-1A. So 49 is there, means it is a numeric data. Dash is there, it is a special operator. 1 is a numeric data. A is an alphabet. So simply we can say that numeric and non-numeric data we can say. But when you people are working with programming, it is your responsibility so to say that which type of data you are going to store. Is it numeric data or else non-numeric data? In latest technology, some programs, they don't need to define data type. For example, if you go with Python, directly you can use some x equal to 5. So you don't need to mention what is x. You don't need to mention what is 5. 5 is a numeric data. So Python compiler is going to recognize x is using numeric type of data without mentioning any data types. But some programming languages require some data types. You're supposed to mention which type of data you are going to utilize it. Is it numeric or non-numeric? Again, when it comes to numeric, we may having different types. And when it comes to non-numeric, they're also we're having different types. So that we'll discuss later. So this is the need of data types. Data type is nothing but which type of data you are going to use in your programming. So in C programming, when it comes to data types, so it can be classified into different types. And here we are giving the information regarding what is meant by data types. So just like the name suggests here, data types refers to the type of data that we are using in C programming. So which type of data you're going to use, that we are representing with the help of data types. And the purpose of data type, why we are using to use, what is the need to use the data type. So actually the intention of defining the data type is it will be interlinked with memory. So just to observe that as a human being, so we are identifying, we are recognizing something, and we are keep it in mind. We are keep it in our mind. So when someone said what happened yesterday, we can say that so and so thing happened. If someone says after 4 days or after 1 week, what is happened on last Monday, we can represent and we can say that. If after 1 year, or else after 2 years, if someone asks what has happened on so and so date, we can't say. Why? Because at that time we kept the information in our memory, means brain. After some time, automatically it is going to erase the things and new things will enter into our brain. Similarly, when you people are working with any programming, so that programming will require some intermediate type of information. Intermediate type means, so whenever you required, up to what time you required, up to such some particular time, it will keep it in memory. Once the time is completed, automatically it will erase. So in computer, memory is nothing but a storage area. Memory is nothing but a storage area. Why we people are using memory in our programming? When you are writing any programming, so you are using the memory. You are taking the help of memory. Why? Because the intention is to store the intermediate values and final result. So whatever the intermediate values you received at the time of some calculations, and after completion of things, you may get some particular result also. And to recognize or to keep in mind of intermediate values and final result, so we are using memory. Memory is like a mind in our brain as a human being. So as a human being is having brain to keep something, like computer is having memory to keep something. But we need to give instructions to the memory. So what type of data you are going to keep and how much time we're supposed to keep it in memory. Everything which will be done with the help of data types. So data type is nothing but which is going to define what type of data you are going to store in a variable. What type of data you are going to store in a variable. So is it numeric or non-numeric? If it is numeric data, we are mentioning we are going to store numeric data. If it is a non-numeric data, we are going to say that it is a non-numeric data. Then how we are going to define that, we'll take it next. So in C programming, the data types are categorized into 4 types. So one is basic type, another one is called derived, enumeration, void. These are the 4 types of data types. When it comes to basic type, every programming language is having this basic type of data types. Irrespective of C programming, so same data types you can find in Java, Python, or some X language, whatever it may be. And remaining these data types, we may have some programming languages or may not also. That's based on their designing. So when it comes to basic, here we are having 4 data types. One is called int, another one is called char, another one is called float, and fourth one is called double. Earlier, I said that the data may be either numeric or non-numeric. If it is a numeric type of data, you can use integer, float, double. These 3 data types you can use in C programming for numeric data. If it is a non-numeric data, non-numeric in the sense anything, even though it is a combination of numeric also. In that situation, we can use char data type. So int, float, double, these data types for numeric data. Char, C-H-A-R, char is for non-numeric type of data. So that we'll discuss later regarding what is memory int, what is memory float, and these all things. And next one is derived data types. So in C programming, we are having 4 types of derived data types. One is called array, another one is called pointer, another one is called structure, and fourth one is union. These derived data types exist from basic data types. So derived data types are defined with the help of basic data types only. Means if you consider array, so array is nothing but a collection of similar type of data. So similar type of data means again it may be integer, or means it may be numeric data, or it may be non-numeric data. So which is derived from basic data type only. Pointer, it will be either integer pointer, means either numeric pointer or non-numeric pointer. Structure union also like that. So structure unions also derived data types, which are the combination of basic data types. So with the help of basic data types, we are going to design our own data type, that is called structure or union. So simply these derived data types, we can also call it as a user defined data types. User defined in the sense which is defined by us. So user defined data types, derived data types, also called it as a user defined data types. And next, when it comes to third one, enumeration. So enumeration data types also there, that we call it as a enum. Okay, so later on we'll discuss regarding these all things. And fourth one, which is most important and regularly used data type, is void. So void, it is having only one type, that is called void. Void is nothing but simply you can say that nothing. Void is nothing but nothing. So if nothing is there, means nothing is there, then I can say that it is void. Means no data is there. To define something, we don't have any data. In that situation, we can define it as a void. If it is having data, then we can mention some data type, either numeric or non-numeric. But here, if we are defining something and it doesn't have anything, then we can define it as a type is void. So where we are going to use it? So at the time of defining the functions, for that purpose, we can use void. So here, the data types is interlinked with memory and so data type, the intention of usage of data type is, so at the time of defining a variable, you're supposed to mention how much memory you required for that specific variable. How much memory required in the sense? So based on the data type which you defined, compiler will automatically allocate memory. For example, if I defined numeric type of data, so for that numeric type of data, it may assign some 2 bytes or 4 bytes or 8 bytes. If it is a non-numeric type of data, means we are having only one, that is character. For that, it is going to define 1 byte of data. And when it comes to derived types, so derived type is nothing but user defined. So for user defined, so based on the data type which you define as an array or pointer or structure or union, so compiler itself will calculate manually. So means automatically compiler itself will calculate how much memory required for that, and it will allocate the things. Similarly, we are having enumeration data type and void data type. For void data type, so system will not allocate memory. Means the memory size for void is 0. I can say that 0. So these are the basic types of data types. So In C programming, the data types are categorized into 4 types. One is basic, derived, enumeration, wide. So, basic, when it comes to basic, we are having int, char, float, double. And when it comes to derived, we are having array, pointer, structure, union. When it comes to enumeration, we are having the data types enum. When it comes to wide, we are having only wide. So, the primary data types which we defined here, the integer, character, double, floating point, wide. These 5 may call it as a primary data types. So, integer means the data without decimal points, which we call it as an integer. The whole number, simply I can say that whole number. So, if you're defining any number without points like 5, 8, 6, 7, 2, 3, 9, 0, like that, means without decimal points, if you are defining any number, I can say that integer. And if the numeric data which is defined with points, like here we're having like 40.1, 820.673, 5.9, 6.0, like that. If you define, then I can say that floating type of data. So numeric type of data may be categorized basically into 2 types only: integer data and floating data. Integer data in the sense the numeric value without decimal points, we call it as a integer. Float or double, I can say that float or double. This type of data called the numeric data with decimal points. Numeric data with decimal points, call it as a real data. Real data are also floating double. Next, wide. Wide is nothing but no value. If doesn't have any value, we can say that wide. So these are the basic names which we can suggest on it. So integer, it is a basic name for integer data. Double, floating point, these are the numeric type of floating data. And character is for character type of data, means except numeric, non-numeric, whatever it may be, I can say that character. And wide, another one is wide. So this term refers to no values at all. So if doesn't have any value to define, then I can say that wide. So, and these will be technically defined with the words like this. So for integer, we can use the keyword called int, int. So the technical term in C programming for integer type of data, if you are using integer type of data, then you can use the keyword called int. For floating point of data, we can use the data type is called float. And for wide type of data, we can use wide. For character type of data, you can use char, char. And for double type of data, you can use double. So double and float both are floating point numbers. The only thing is here we are having some ranges. So minimum value, maximum value is there. So when you are having some little bit number, means the size of the number is very less or normal, then you can go with float. If the size of the value is more, then go with double. So for that ranges are there. So in next slide, we'll discuss regarding that one. So these are the keywords which we can use for data types. So int is there for integer, float is there for floating value, wide is there for wide type of data, char, CHAR is there for character type of data. Here, character type of data is means alphanumeric, I can say, or else non-numeric, I can say. Okay. So, irrespective of non-numeric means if it is a numeric data, then you can define int, float, or double. If it is a non-numeric data, whatever it may be, so it may be date of birth, or else it may be some XYZ house number like that, or it may be the names, okay, or it may be addresses, whatever it may be, we can define it as a char only. So we don't have specific data types for date of birth, or else string, group of characters, string, okay, or else some other types like complex numbers, okay. So such type of values may be found in a real world, but we don't have any specific data type for to specify that type of things. Everything you can define as a char only. If someone asks to define a variable, or else what is the data type you can use for date of birth? So date of birth means you may say, like for example, 6/06/01/1995. So if I provided the value like this, okay. So what we can say that which type of data type you are going to use? We can say that it is char. Why? Because we don't have specific data type to define the value of date of birth. So I can say that name of the student. As someone asked that I want to define the name of the student. For example, Ravi is there. So which type of data type you are going to use? We can say that char only. So then they may say that char is nothing but single character. Char is nothing but single character. Then how are we going to define it as a string? Group of characters, we call it as a string. The group of characters, we call it as a string. Ravi is a string. Okay. But we don't have specific data type for string. That's why we are using char only. But I can say that it is a character array. It is a character array. Okay. In deep, if they ask in deep, then I can say that it is a character array. So these things you should keep in mind. So basically, we are having these basic data types only: into, float to, void, char, double. Into, float to, double. These three data types used for numeric data. Okay. And char is used for non-numeric data. Void is nothing but nothing, just void. Okay. If doesn't have any specific data type, means it doesn't have any value, then I can define it as void. And where we are going to use? So at the time of defining the pointers, or else at the time of defining the functions, void may be used. Okay, that we'll discuss later on. And next, what are the data types which we are having and how much memory it may require? So I said that we're having the data types like int, float, char, double, void, these all things. Okay, how much memory it is going to require? So when it comes to integer, if you're defining the integer variable, so it is going to use one word. It is going to use one word. So the integer data type is going to use one word. So word means it is one type of technical term in computer. Okay, that is based on the architecture. The processor is there. The bytes may be called it as a word. So some processor based on the compiler, it may having so 16 bits as one word, and some processor may having 32 bits as one word. Okay. So in computer organization, if the people are having computer organization, they can use this technical word WORD. So it is based on the computer which you are using. Okay, processor which you are using. So here in C programming, hint data type is basically using 2 bytes only. But in advanced compilers, int data type is using 4 bytes. For example, if you are using normal C, turbo C programming, normal computer in DOS oriented, it will use 2 bytes only. Visual C is there, or else Java is there. There it is using to go with 4 bytes of memory. So simply I can say that, so normal as per turbo C, the int data type is using 2 bytes of memory. And when it comes to char, so it is going to use 1 byte. 1 byte means 8 bits. 1 byte means 8 bits. So it is going to use 1 byte. And I said that I mentioned the name Ravi. And I defined it as a character type of data. And how many bytes it is going to use. So already we told you that one character is 1 byte. Here I found 4 characters, RAVI. I found 4 characters. So it is going to use 4 bytes of memory. So number of characters, whatever you defined, based on that, it is going to use. And double data type. It is for floating type of data and which is going to use 8 bytes of memory. When it defining double, so for double data types, it is using 8 bytes of memory. Similarly, float is there and it is using 4 bytes of memory. And when it comes to void, it is using 0 bytes of memory. So this is about the memory which is using different data types in C program. So int is using 2 bytes and based on the compiler and the system, based on the computer, so it may be 4 bytes or 2 bytes. And it will define on compiler also. If you are using advanced C compiler, so it will utilize 4 bytes. If you are using normal C compiler, so it is using 2 bytes. By default, you can say the 2 bytes only. And when it comes to character, it is using 1 byte of memory for every character. If you define some 10 characters in a single variable, then it is using 10 bytes of memory. And if you define any variable of double, it will take 8 bytes of memory. And for float, it is using 4 bytes of memory. So when you people are defining any decimal values data, floating point of data, so based on the value which you are using, you may go with either float or double. It's up to you. But by default, it will consider double only. So means if somewhere if you mention some floating value, so this data type may be double only. By default, it will consider double. Specifically, if you mention float, then it will be float. Okay, that we'll discuss later in classes with examples. And when it comes to void, so it is using 0 bytes. For void, there is no memory allocation. So this is about different data types and their values, how much memory it is going to use. Next, data type modifiers are there. Data type modifiers. So modifiers in the sense, it is giving additional flavor to existing data types. These are giving additional flavor to existing data types and maybe some changes may occur. So here we are having 4 modifiers. One is called short, another one is called long, another one is called unsigned, and another one is called signed. So these 4 modifiers can add to your data type. It may be int, float, char, double also. If I say the short int, if it is a short int, you can mention short int or short also. So short float, short double, short char, like that. Long int, long float, long double, like that. Unsigned int, unsigned char, unsigned float, like that. Signed int, signed float, like that. Means these 4 modifiers can add to your data type for additional features. Here, simply I can say that signed, unsigned. By default, modifier is by default modifier is signed. If you people are working with numeric data, so numeric data may be positive or negative. So you're supposed to define whether is it positive number or negative number. So that's why by default modifier is unsigned. By default modifier is signed. So by default sign will be there. If I say that some x equal to 5 means internally plus will be there. If I said x equal to minus 5, so sign is most important. If you are accepting with sign means some positive or some negative also there, then you define signed data type, and by default it is signed only. If I mentioned only int, it is signed int. Here signed will be there. SIGNED signed will be there. By default it is signed. If you want unsigned, then mention unsigned. If I mention unsigned int, means it is going to take only positive values. It never think regarding negative. It never think regarding negative. Similarly, for long also, long int. So long float, like that we can use it. So this is about the modifiers which give additional flavors to the existing data type. Okay. And the memory storage also will change. So this is about modifiers which is giving additional flavor to the existing data type. So next we'll discuss regarding the range of data types. Means there is some restriction is there of data which we are going to use in data types. So these ranges will no one will ask, but for references here I added. So if it is an unsigned character, unsigned char in the sense we don't have any sign. So what is the meaning of sign? The thing is here the character data is also internally converting into numeric value with the help of ASCII chart. There is a chart called ASCII. So whatever the character you defined, so that is going to convert into numeric value with the help of ASCII chart. So ASCII chart is having one numeric value for every character which you typed through keyboard. Whatever you character typed through keyboard, for that ASCII chart is having one numeric value. So here, if you are using unsigned character, so the minimum range is 0 to 255. So it can take the values from 0 to 255. Similarly, if it is a char, so char in the sense by default it is a signed. By default it is a signed. So even though if you mention signed or not, both are having same. Minus 127 to 127. And integer. Integer is having the range minus 32,767 to plus 32,767. So it is using 2 bytes of memory. And if it is using 4 bytes of memory, ranges will be changed. These ranges will be changed. Next, unsigned integer. So unsigned integer means we don't have sign. Values will be only positive data. Value will be only positive data. So signed integer or normal integer, both as same. Unsigned in the sense it doesn't have sign, then it will consider positive only. Similarly, short int is there. Short int is nothing but normal int, 16 bytes. Like unsigned short int. Like that, we are having different flavors for adding modifiers. For adding with modifiers. Okay. So next, derived data types, which we discussed regarding derived data types. So we're having arrays. So array is nothing but a collection of multiple values of similar type. whatever the values with similar type, we call it as a array. So multiple values in a similar type means if I define integer some x equal to 5, it is a single value. If I define an integer with multiple values, some 4, 6, 9, 12, like that, then it becomes integer. Then it will become integer. So here the definition is saying that it is a collection of multiple values of similar data type. Means if you defined an array of integer, all values should be integer only. If you define an array of float, all values should be float only. If you define an array of type character, all values should be character only, like that. And sometimes you can define array like this, some x equal to, I can say that 4.2, 3.5, some 6 I can say. And what will become this one? If I defined x as a float, if I define x as a float, but I gave one integer value here, then what will happen? Is it going to accept it or not? Yes, it is going to accept. How it is possible means with the help of the concept called typecasting. There is a topic called typecasting. So typecasting is nothing but converting one type of data into another type. So here integer value 6 is going to convert into float, means it will become 6.0. It will become 6.0. So at the time of displaying the value, or else at the time of storing the value, the integer value 6 will be converted into 6.0. That will happen. Okay. So, and the declaration of array will be like this. So data type, which type of array you are going to define, and the name of the array, and size, array size. So what it mean, everything we'll discuss at the time of discussing the topic arrays. Similarly, pointer data type is there. It also comes under derived data type. So it is a data type which is used to store the address of another variable, or else I can say that address of a memory location. So pointer is a variable used to store address of a memory location. So what is the use of pointer? Why we are going to discuss, and everything we'll discuss at the time of discussing the pointer topic. And it is one of the most danger topic in programming technology. That's why it is not further implemented in any other programming language. So pointer is a data type which is implemented in only C programming. You didn't find in any other programming language like Java, C++. So in these languages, we don't have pointer. Sorry, C++ is the extension of C, there we have. But when it comes to Java or else Python or else some .NET like that, there we don't have pointer data type. So simply I can say that use it to store the address of another variable. So similarly, we are having structure and union. So it is nothing but it is a combination of similar or different data types. Structure and union both are combination of similar or different data types. But there is a difference between structure and union. So the structure and union different is here the size of the structure is sum of the storage size required by each variable only. So means if I use some 4 integer values, in a structure, I can say that 4 into 2. Why? Because one integer is using 2 bytes. 4 into 2 means 8 bytes it is going to allocate. If you define the same thing in union, if I define the same thing in union, here it is going to allocate the memory for a single variable. Even though if you define 4 variables, but it is going to allocate the memory for single variable. That too, the variable which is using highest memory location, highest memory. For example, if I am going to use some 2 integers and 1 float, 1 double, assume it, I'm using 2 integers, 1 float, 1 double. So 2 integers. For this, it is going to use 8 bytes. So 2 floats. So it is going to use 2 4 ja, sorry, 2 2 ja 4. Sorry, this one is 8. And 1 double. So 1 double, it is also 8 bytes. So 8 plus 8 plus 4 means totally we are going to use 20. So if same thing is happened in structure, it is going to allocate 20 bytes of memory. But if same thing is happened in union, it is going to allocate only 8 bytes. Here actually 4 plus 4, not directly 8. Here 2 plus 2. So 2 is there, 4 is there, 8 is there. So this data type is going to utilize more memory. That's why for union, it is allocating only 8 bytes. If you consider as a structure, it is going to allocate 20 bytes. Why? What's the difference? That we'll discuss at the time of discussing union and structure. Okay, right now, this is the thing. So when it comes to structure, it is a combination of similar or different types of data. Union is also combination of similar and different types of data. Means both I'm saying same definition, but where you can find the difference means at the time of memory allocation. If you are using structure, it is allocating the memory of summation of all the variables which you use. So if I assume that I'm using 2 integers, 2 floats, 1 double, then totally it comes to 20 bytes. So if you're defining it as a structure, 20 bytes memory is going to allocate. But if you're defining it as a union, then it is allocating only 8 bytes. Okay, that is the difference between these two things. So there is another data type called enumerated data type. So enum is there, enum is there. So which is also a user defined data types and which is having integer value. It is having an integer value. So where we can use it means, so if we are having some discrete number of values, means some constant number of values. For example, I can say that in a week, I can find 7 days only. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In a month, in a year, I can find 12 months only. January, February, March, like that. Means these we call it as a discrete integer values. If you are going to define some discrete integer values, then you can use, there is a chance called enum data type. So for this example, we'll discuss later on. So when you start the programming, then we can find examples for these all things. Okay, so this is about today's class. So